This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, hello. Good to be here with you today. I'm Deborah Johnson with the Women at Halftime podcast. And a couple announcements before we get into today's subject, which is a great one, by the way. I'm really looking forward to this. In Novelty of Thinking for Yourself in a World of Clones. It was really fun to do a little bit of the research for this and to be able to get into the arts just a little bit. But I want to remind you that there's a week left to sign up for Hero Mountain Summit. HeroMountainSummit.com. It's the 5-month little program that we have to be able to help you move ahead. So a lot of people that are having a hard time getting off the dime. And we have a specific measurable goals, things that you will work through all 5 of those months to be able to move you ahead in either you're starting your business, you're developing your side business, you are balancing your life and your business together, putting together online courses. There's so many things we can cover, but it'll all depend on where you want to go. So it's kind of a little pacing program that we can do. So anyway, make sure you check that out and all of our other offers as well. So let's get to this subject. It's, and again, a great one because kind of got to delve into the arts just a little bit in thinking for yourself. And what is thinking for yourself? It's really become an anomaly in a world of clones. Now, what is a clone? A clone is an exact replica, a copy. And my premise in approaching this subject is that in many ways, we've become a copycat or a cookie cutter world. And social media has done a good job on selling us on a certain look, a certain style, a format, and even a business model. And so we just see a lot of copies out there. How do you tell them apart? And the term expert, it's also been diluted. And now the term even thought leader is moving quickly to achieve the same fate. And the terms have been diluted with no differentiation, how do I say that? No difference. So there's nothing wrong with gleaning good ideas and inspiration from others. In fact, it's smart. It's very smart. But taking time to really think and really ponder, putting together a plan that includes your unique skills and your unique experience, that's taken a back seat. And it's really what I encourage others to do so much, because we don't want you to just be that clone looking like everyone else. And again, it's a great principle to be able to copy the things that are working and apply them to your life. But one of the things that I love to do is to help others maximize their skills, their experience. And it does take time, and it takes energy, and it takes effort to just really think. And how often are we spending time thinking these days? You want to be able to think how you are different than everyone else. And most have gotten out of the habit of doing so. It does take time. But taking that time to ponder and reflect, it's not always easy, and it gets pushed back or it gets left out completely of our busy lives. And so sitting with those blank pages, it doesn't really feel productive or like a good use of our time. So we get out of the habit of doing that, to take that time, because now we have fast-paced schedules and responsibilities, and we have easy fixes, and they take over our lives and even our creativity. And there's so much talk about creativity these days and how we can use creativity, but do we take the time to be different from that person right next to us? It takes that sort of extra effort. And it feels strange. It feels like, okay, so this doesn't feel normal now. How can I start to feel normal again and not just like, oh, I have no ideas. It just takes sitting with some of that sometimes to be able to have those creative juices. I like to refer back to the 2002 Star Wars Attack of the Clones movie. And they had a clone army in service to a movement. And George Lucas created a digital army for a film. And the army displayed unquestioned obedience to the higher chain of command. And we see it now, all of those robots, actually those white robots just marching. And comparisons, of course, have been made between political aspects of the Clone Wars and world wars and even other wars. This is, if you look these up online, you can. And it might have been built off of George Lucas's quote in 2002, which is very, very interesting. These were his words. All democracies turn into dictatorships, but not by coup. The people give their democracy to a dictator, whether it's Julius Caesar or Napoleon or Adolf Hitler. Ultimately, the general population goes along with the idea. Now realize this was from George Lucas in 2002. It sounds very familiar. And it's an example of where art meets life. Very interesting. And Lucas then goes on, what kinds of things pushed people and institutions in this direction? Well, that's the issue I've been exploring. How did the Republic turn into the empire? How does a good person go bad? And how does a democracy become a dictatorship? Now, remember, these were George Lucas's words and what the 2002 movie was built upon. And that vivid illustration of those white robots duplicated and marching make this a vivid example of what happens when repetition just goes unchecked. It's kind of scary. It's also interesting that George Lucas's statement, he foresaw what could happen, not only in politics, but in life and in business. As we see these copycats and we see this generating these things that all look the same. So what about clones in business? And what about thinking for yourself? Now, this is a topic, that's what we're exploring today, is clones in business, and really clones as a part of life and how it can become so integrated with our life. So thinking for yourself, it's the opposite of creating a clone in business. And standard business plans and principles, those should be followed, as they're the same in most instances, such as you should have measurable goals. You should know what the results could be, measurable, and a viable product to sell or an offer, and a definable market. Know who you are selling this to. They're very, very important, all of those. And we cover this in our Hero Mountain Summit as well. But your look, your marketing methods, and your style, it should reflect your uniqueness. Now, there are millions of different coaches. You can look at them up online, executive coaches, life coaches, and even leadership coaches, as an example. How do you tell them all apart? They're calling themselves consultants now, a lot of them just different. But unless the messaging is very clear and targeted, even the word coach and consultant, it becomes a diluted term. But the same thing holds true for other blasted phrases that we hear and see, such as transformational leadership. What does that mean? And thought leader or influencer. And if you use the right colors in your marketing, if you promote the right catchphrases, and you have the right pictures, and you even have the right look for a trending field, we're told that, oh, you could break through. But of course, that's not always the case. And we know that, but we still tend to kind of follow that way, because again, that's our tendency. That's what George Lucas was kind of defining there in that 2002, the clones, and as he was kind of calling it out as what he was doing. And so, and I have some other examples here. In fact, I'm going to use a little example in the arts, just because, of course, that's where a lot of my background has been from. But we've always talked about this breakthrough sound, breakthrough whatever. And I'm going to look back at an artist, Jim Brickman. I'll put all the links in the show notes. But he's a pianist and a composer. And he was 33 and when he decided to not just be a clone. He didn't want to be like all the others standing right beside him. And these are some of the things that he did. At 33, he got his first record deal. And he had been a jingle writer, writing for commercials. And he had been writing songs for other people, but he always loved the piano. And in 1994, he discovered a niche that he could capture, writing romantic songs. Now, New Age music, it was hot at the time, but he chose to do it his own way, contemporizing it to sound more like pop songs, which was his style. And this was really the only type of songs he really knew how to write. So he went with it, kind of looking at some of the trends, but he made it his own. Even when securing a record deal, Brickman, he filled his car and his trunk with CDs, which of course were very popular still then. And he hit the radio station road tour to actually get his songs played on the radio stations. And it was unconventional at the time. But he said, I did it by myself, meeting those radio station DJs, just like Elvis did. You still have a product that you're trying to get people to hear. He knew the principle there that he had to do to kind of break away from just being those clones, just like everyone else. We just depend on that record company. We will depend on them to do our work. He decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of use my uniqueness, know some of the ways that I know will still work, the principle of what Elvis had done, Elvis Presley, some years ago. And so he goes on, though, to say that his career has always been about bucking the system, breaking molds, and challenging the stead and the obvious. And as an artist, we can see many follow this same path, but many of them are just still living out of their car. However, what Brickman did was he called upon his experience as a successful songwriter, and he was already established in his field. That's very important. And then he looked at what was selling and he applied his unique style. And then he did the gut work it took to promote it. Now, this is what a lot of people have missed, because they look at what everyone else is doing and they think, oh, because that's working for them, I'm just going to sort of copy it. And they're almost afraid of using their uniqueness. Your uniqueness is extremely valuable. And this is why I am speaking so much to those at the halftime of life right now, because at the halftime of life, there are so many not using their skills, their resources, their talents, their experience, and even all of their accolades. They're kind of just letting the normal status quo just kind of take over. So this is a very, very important principle here, is to use your uniqueness. And one I really want you to think about as you think not being a clone. So, and as we see, we can kind of sum some of this up as this thought process. Thinking through all of this for yourself, it doesn't have to be outlandish or even a lot different than everyone else. But it should be uniquely you, with a process that you've thought through and that you've applied. Very, very important in doing that. And this is what so many people are missing. And so next time you are with a group of people, where, to be able to notice people around us, take time to look around you and notice some of the differences. People watch. Some of the people have gotten out of that habit. Look at the looks, the personality, the buying habits, and even the eating habits. They're all usually entirely different from person to person, even if you watch how someone eats their meal. Some just take one thing at a time. And if you're brave, bring a small journal to document your thoughts and how you are uniquely different. And then see if you can apply this to where you are in your life and in business. And that way, you won't be just another clone just marching in unison. And if you do take that time, write down those thoughts. I write down a lot of my little thoughts because I'll come back to them over and over and over again. And it's very, very interesting how if you start writing something down, you'll notice, oh, they're eating like, they're separating everything at one time, one little bits and another little bits, and how those people are different. Well, how can you apply that? Well, maybe in having different little areas of your business. I mean, just be creative, right? Just write. But to notice how certain people digest certain things as well, or how they shop. Some people are very, very fast, and some like to take their time. So figure out what your particular audience is, what your particular client looks like, or that's very, very important to kind of come up with those aspects there. So thank you. We've gone through a lot today on this, getting away, thinking for yourself, not just being a clone. And this is really near and dear to my heart because my business is very unique and very different. And I don't always follow the normal little path of how to do everything. I've got a good business structure, but I've also expanded some of the areas in diversifying my income, extremely important. And so many people don't think of doing all of those things because then when the pandemic hits, you have things going on, you have things beside showing up live places and to be able to, expand technology and not being afraid of it. So just be able to think a little bit differently using your skills and taking some of those risks to be uniquely you and not just like everybody else. So people will know, oh, that's what she does. And part of that is your branding statement, all of that. But we get, again, there's these little formulas and make sure what you are coming up is uniquely you and that you are using your talents, your uniqueness and who you are, because we are all so very, very different. Even my sisters, we're totally different from each other. We can see that in families. Oh my goodness, those dynamics. So anyway, and capitalize on that in your business as well. So I hope you join me next week. And this is a great one because Greg is with me, coming up with interesting conversation topics. This is a really good one because many, as they gracefully grow older in life, especially couples, all of a sudden, what are you going to talk about besides the doctor's appointments and your health and, how you're feeling today, how much sleep you got? We've come up with some really, really good ideas. And this applies to friendships. It applies to colleagues and how to ask questions and how to be able to expand our thinking as well. So coming up with interesting conversation topics. I'll even list some of the books and everything. We're avid readers, so it's a really good one. Womenathalftime.com. You can listen, subscribe. I love reviews, be able to share it as well. And this is just a great time. I love these podcasts. It's so much fun to produce. And again, this one today, a really, really fun one, of course, with our, I love the novelty of thinking for yourself in a world of clones. I've wanted to do this for quite a while because I'm really adamant on being your own person, but yet make sure that what you've got is a viable selling proposition and all of your business areas are also in line. That's extremely important. So thanks again for joining me, Deborah Johnson, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.